Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it too on Bushka on Blitz, and I'm lucky enough to be doing it with you today in the ST1, the big bloody Russian heavy that stalks about tier 9 like it owns the place. And it kind of does. There's been a whole bunch of tanks that I've had to decide on as to what's my favourite heavy, what's my favourite TD, and all that kind of thing, and all the other tiers. No tier has been harder than tier 9. I think, at least amongst the blokes that I talk to, that tier 9 is universally like the most well-dressed tier in the game. There are so many tanks that work and so many tanks that perform well, and that really is the rule with tier 9 heavy tanks. There are a great deal of heavy tanks that I adore at tier 9 and that I had a super hard time going past. But for a bit of win rate repair, for an amazing side scraper and an amazing hull down tank, for a tank that just gets bounces by turning up and a tank that you can be incredibly aggressive in, it's very, very hard to go past this tank, the ST1. And considering how much I love tanks like the Conqueror, like I've got a 70% win rate in that thing at tier 9, and I've had that as a top tank for me forever. The VK4502B, which I think is one of the best, most underrated side-scraping heroes in tier 9. I mean, even the tanks that I hardly drive anymore, like the M103, are still really good heavy tanks. And that doesn't even get into some of the other stuff like the IS-8, which I believe is a fantastic heavy tank and vastly underrated. I mean, the E75 is an absolute monster. I mean, how do you grade these tanks out and say, this is clearly the best? Well, you do it like this. This is the best. For me, all round, this tank offers the most bang for buck. And it goes without saying that I would really like a reset button on my spare parts, because I basically didn't spend my spare parts on this tank. I only have one second tier spare part that I'm using in this video, and that is the armor. I buffed the armor on it because obviously that was the most important thing to get. So I'm not running it with a vertical stabilizer. I'm not running it with improved mobility. I'm not running it with any of that schmozzle. I'm just using plain old gun rammer, the enhanced cabin and optics. And it still just performs like a bat out of hell. It's so strong. All the videos you're going to see today, I had a lot of really good games in it, but I didn't really just want to put a blur video out there. I wanted to illustrate something that I do an awful lot of in this tank, and that's drive from the front. All the videos you're going to see here, in nearly basically all of them, I am moving forward at pace, and I run the turbo to get there for that reason. It's really important that you make sure this tank is on the front line, because the reason it is so good is because the armor profile is so incredibly strong and the turret is so ridiculously good, and yet it maintains this flexibility and just enough mobility and gun depression to fulfill all kinds of roles. I mean, this is a tier 10 game. I'm driving forward. Hat tip for newer players to the ST1. If you're expecting incoming fire and you're trying to get to a position and you're going to have to go sideways to do it, try and angle your turret at least to be in the direction of the incoming fire, and that will help in case someone does snap a shot off in your direction. You're going to see in all these videos, I push to the front because this tank can handle it. It can handle tier 10 frontline duty. It can face up against anyone. It can side scrape against all of them, and it does it with absolute aplomb. It is so good, and the armor profile is very much like an IS-6's armor profile or an IS-4's armor profile, which is all about just awkward angles. And as the tank turns and moves, the angles change, and what was a clear pen becomes an absolute non-pen. And you can see, because the actual tank is quite low to the ground, it's deceptive. I call it a big angry heavy, but it's a lot smaller than your German heavies and your American heavies, and it's got a big turret on it, but the profile of the chassis is very low to the ground, and that's a really good thing for a tank that is a very large tank in terms of the turret size. It's nice that it still manages to maintain that low profile, and that low profile lets it absolutely dominate when you can get that turret visible, because it's very hard to see the lower part of the tank. Look, again, I'm right at the front of the line. I'm right at the front of the line, constantly at the front of the line in this tank. And we're living in a world that's chock full of good heavies at the moment. If you're driving tier 10 and you're driving an IS-7 or an IS-4 or one of those, or a Mouse or an E100, you're loving life, because if you've spent any money on spare parts, any money on the equipment and spare parts on the equipment, then you've got a tank that's been vastly improved. And you've also been improved by nerfs to medium tanks. And the natural predators for tanks like the ST1, like some of those Russian meds, are weaker now. They're just weaker. They are just not as good as they used to be. I did a video on the T-54 very recently, so I mean, I'm fully aware of that. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression in this tank, which is brilliant. And all these things add up to a tank that can just pound. It's so strong, and it's so able to get in there and do the business. You can see I've moved right up the front. I've caught these guys at an odd angle. You've got nearly 1,800 hit points, and you can go and start using them. You can see you've got more hit points than that conch, that AMX, always angling. You can see I'm always angling. That AMX gets saved as that bloke turns across in front of me. And I'm going to take a really aggressive stance here, get a shot in. I'm going to angle off the edge of this building and side scrape. That AMX is in a tough spot because he's getting pushed on from both sides. We're just going to wait here and then pull out and put a shot in the back. Probably could have penned that with HE, which would have been better. The Conqueror knows he's got to move out. You can see we're always trying to giggle and wiggle and jiggle. And even if you take the shot in the end, it took him so long to get that shot off because the tank is so tough to pen that it slows his damage numbers down. And it means that tanks that, even though they might pen on you, they have to use premium ammunition to make sure they pen. They're doing less damage. They have to really aim in to get that pen to work. It's just brilliant. It's my favorite tier 10 heavy, tier 9 heavy, because it's so reliable. You can see, look, again, tier 10, I've dropped the turbo. I am right in the middle of the nasty stuff. There's an IS-7 there. I'm going to immediately start side scraping. I'm going to take a hit from a waffle tractor at the back, but once I know he's there, that's all well and good. We can start allowing for him. I'm going to move up and get one across into the E70, into the IS-7, who's on my right. I'm not shy about this tank. I use it very, very aggressively. And I'm going to show you one game at the end that's a whole game where I show you why it's so good hull down. And it's on the Redoubtable Temple, which is the safe haven of all hull down tanks. And this is nothing if not one of the best hull down tanks. There's that waffle. We're going to eat one, so we may as well put one in here to the IS-7 because he's probably the toughest tank. And it's all well and good for him to be up there, but IS-7 isn't particularly brilliant at side scraping. We can very comfortably side scrape here. There's the waffle. He's going to get stuck into me. We're going to bounce that shot. There's a key to being aggressive with heavy tanks now, particularly in this meta. The fact that you've got big hit point pools and the fact that you have very good armor profiles, it's changed the game to the point where you are really the guy that's expected to go and tank. You're expected to fulfill the clue is in the title kind of thing. Like that, you're expected to get out there, bounce shots, and take damage. And the guys that were really hurting you before, your Russian meds, your high-profile, high DPM monsters, they're not as efficient as they used to be. And that means that there's a gap to be filled in the marketplace, and you need to fill it. If you're in an ST1 or an IS-4 or an IS-7, put your big boy pants on and move on up. I had a really bad run today with Snake, and then I went back and did some win rate repair with this thing, and I realised that I get too passive in tier 10, and I don't utilise the strength of the tank because the caliber is so high that you're facing. Yet when I play this tank against tier 10 tanks, I have no qualms. I push it out there. I give it absolutely everything. You can see IS-7's coming around here. Angle up, make him jiggle, make him wiggle. He wants to fire AP, standard AP. He wants to pen with those, and it's very tough. He's looking for me to fire another shot. Again, I'm going to angle up. He's going to pen me, but he's got to aim it. He's got to wait. He's got to take his time. He's got to expose himself to do it. We're holding a line. We are a big part of the team. We're a big part of the game, and we're bloody important. And I like that about what's going on at the moment. it's changed. I mean, it used to be just so medium dominated, this game. And that's really feels changed. Whether you like that or not, it's the world we're living in. And the ST1 for me is such a lovely big brute. Look at the way, I mean, this is not fully buffed. This doesn't have all the traverse and all the speed boosts and everything like that. And yet, it's not having any problems performing at all. You can see I'm angling up, turning around, even as it happens. And now I'm leveraging around. And this game was actually right there for us. We were right in this. And this big Jagdpanzer E100 comes along and takes my spot. And moves me off here and then just got absolutely wrecked. And didn't really do much. And that's, I mean, we all make mistakes. I should have been stronger, but I should have really waited and held my spot here because I love this area. And I was really doing very well there, and I just couldn't get in to save myself because he came along and took it. It's pretty unfortunate, actually, because I thought that I'd played that pretty well up until then, and you can see that Object 140 is going for me. He's not mucking around going for that. Anyway, we won't muck around with that too much. Again, I'm on the front line. I'm not going to muck around too long here. I'm going to pick up my sticks and go. Because when people are up tiered against you, when you are the top tier tank, your armor profile, I didn't mean to press that button. Your armor profile is really good. And if you get the opportunity to push and you know how to angle, back yourself. This tank will put an absolute hurt on people. It's an intimidating vehicle. There are lots of parts of that quite simply cannot be penned by tier 8 tanks. And try not to keep it still. You really want to make sure it's moving all the time. If they're above you like this, it can be tough because that lurver, and you can see he's only done 210 damage because he had to fire premium ammunition to get through. And that's an important stat. That means that we're using our hit points for the team. We've walked up here, we've moved the map, and we win the game. I mean, we win it so easily because we take out 2 heavy tanks, smash the flank, finish off this poor old ISU-152, who cannot pen me for love nor money. Like, he's got no chance. And that's all there is. I mean, even look on Himmelsdorf. I'm going to be so over-the-top aggressive here. It's ridiculous. I've not got one red tank spotted, but this is like 12 wins into a 13 or 14 game run. And I'm feeling like I am 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And there, oh, whoops. And yeah, battery was an issue in this game. There's our first bounce. There's an IS-8 down there. There's the scent. I mean, there's a T-44 there. There's a Jag Tiger, a T-32. They all want a piece of me. They all want the action. It's not just the shots that you're not bouncing here. It's not just the shots that you're bouncing. It's also the shots that the enemy team quite simply isn't taking. And they're aiming at me. There is so much attention focused on me at the moment. And I am the whole left-hand side of our team. The gun lets me down again, but it's Russian. What do you expect? You can't have the best of everything in this world. There is so much attention focused on me here, and so many people want to tear me apart, that it's just an easy win for our team. Our team, I end up dying, but our team just absolutely wrecked the Reds. Just smashed them. I'm going to ignore this T-44 here. There's an IS-8 looking at me. There's a T-34 down there. I basically just consumed a whole flank. They had to pay attention to me. They all tried to kill me. The amount of shots I bounced, the amount of shots I had that they wanted to put into me, and the amount of time they wasted trying to find weak points and side-scoping against me. That's what this tank can do. And now finally, let's talk about the ace up your sleeve. It's an amazing side-scraper. But hull down, it's just a joke. I mean, you've got that turret, the hatch at the front on the right hand side as you're looking over the top of it here. It's a very small turret. It's angled and it's not that weak. And if you're up above people, good luck with that. And this is where you really want to be on this map. You want to be pushing. I mean, look again, the tip of the spear. Every single game, I'm driving this tank and ramming it down the enemy's throats. Now, I'm not YOLOing. I'm driving to a choke point or a position of strength, and then I'm setting up shop and doing the business. That RU-251 is in a tough spot. I only really take one hit in this game, and that's from an ISU-152, who I'm counting tanks at the moment. I'm thinking he's got to be there somewhere, who is actually parked up the back. And I move out to have a shot at here at this 103, and there you go. Good, well played, SU, ISU, very well played, absolutely deserved. But now I know he's there, that's it. I'm not giving him another easy one. I know I've got him on the reload. I'm just going to put an exploratory shell down there and then hold the top here. No one's even shooting at the ST1 as I'm sitting over the top because it's just ridiculous. You're not going to pen it. There's no point to shooting at the ST1. The turret it's Godzilla, okay? It's Godzilla doused in vodka and driving down the street in Moscow. It's that bloody good. Get it. It's well worth the effort. Before I go, I want to say a quick few words. Oh, geez. I really say a few words. I want to say thank you. You guys are awesome. And especially those who've stuck around. I know there's been so much negativity out there from patch 3.8 onwards. And I know I don't want to get personal about this because people tend to put words in my mouth about this is what I think and this is what I do. And they want someone to blame, and I'm visible, so they do, and I've got big shoulders and I can live with that. But I want to say thank you specifically to the people who understand the kind of person I am, and that I am someone who has a hard time just being generically negative, who can see I'm very empathetic, and it's one of the things that really drives me. And one of the reasons I made the channel was I wanted to help the humans. And throughout all of the problems we've had with spare parts and Wargaming's rubbish implementation of them, etc., I've kept doing videos that have dealt with what's in front of me and tried to give people a guide through whatever is in front of me and whatever is in front of them in the game, the realistic parts of the game. Whatever the current meta is what we've got to deal with. I can't help that. That's just who I am. It might not be the guy you want, but you can vote with your feet. And I appreciate those of you who stuck around and understand that that's who I am. And that's my nature. And that's just how it's going to be forever and a day. You are never really going to get knee-jerk reactions from me. And one other thing I'd like to point out, which I'm under an NDA, so I can't disclose things. It's just one of the reasons I can't always talk to you about stuff and give you the info and give you the conversations that I know go on behind closed doors, because I take those things seriously. Like, I really do take a non-disclosure agreement to be a non-disclosure agreement. I don't leak things. And yet, you would not believe the amount of conversations I've had with members of the wargaming community, both in person and on social media, privately, about spare parts and about changes to the game, and how many times they've gone away and put that feedback through for me. I mean, and I 100% think that's more valuable, and the ability to actually affect change can only happen if you're in the conversation. It can't happen if I just chuck the toys out of the cot and scream and leave the game. I still enjoy playing it. I still like playing this game. Like, I genuinely enjoy playing this game. I'm playing the ST1. I'm chain playing this ST1. You can see I played like 20 games in it today. Just solo, doing the business, seeing how it performed, reaffirming my idea that this was the best tank and this is how you should drive it. And I'm going to tell people that this is how they should drive it. And that's why I'm here. And I hope you stick around. I hope you stay part of the channel. And I hope I keep growing and everything keeps moving. There's so much going on and there's so much coming up. Until next time, boys and girls, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield.